coach, like it sounds like your voice is gone. My son and I
Yeah,
watched the show. So what's going on? Like,
I know, huh? Yeah, hey, I don't know. I'm trained. You know what? I sing in the choir at church, and I can't sing anymore. So uh, I used to be able to, sit next to my wife and be able to, sing some Brian McKnight, old school Brian McKnight.
okay.
I used to be able to hit the high pitches, and I can't do it since I've become a head coach. Assistant coach, I was a little more quiet, but
Wow. So that's been
yeah,
some years now then since you ain't been able to hit them notes. That's
I ain't been able to sing
crazy.
Brian McKnight. And my kids are like laughing. They're like, when I try to sing to her, and so my kids are like, dude, you can't sing that. And my mom, my wife says, no, he used to be able to sing it to me, but he just lost his voice screaming.
So you could really sing beforehand though.
Not like professional, but I can hold a note to
Okay.
where it was endearing to my wife. Let's say that.
That's what's
No,
up. So
nowhere past that.
do you bet? So head coaching has some other implications. I was saying that my son and I, we really do watch the show. I use it as a teaching tool because he plays ball and the stuff that you be talking to the kids about, I be like, you heard what he said? And so
Mhm,
I'm curious because I asked him, does he have any questions for you? And he said
mhm,
that we see a lot of their regrets and a lot of things that they wish they would have done different. Do you have
mhm.
any things that you wish you would have done differently, as you look through your career?
Yeah, I wish I would have listened to people that were saying what I was saying. And so I understand what they're going through and why their reactions are the way they are. And so we're trying to break that barrier down. Like, dude, I know exactly kind of how you're thinking, and I'm telling you that we got to break that down. It's okay to think that way, but understand that we're losing opportunities to get better, or we're just losing opportunities because of our responses. So we're trying to break that down a little bit sooner than it broke down with me.
That's
Uh,
crazy. And like, how did it become about? Like, how did Netflix find East LA? Like, how did they get in? Like, did you guys
it,
pursue them? They just came to you all?
it was a cold call, and you know what? Before this all came out, I have no social media. I like to stay underground. And then all of a sudden they call me. I'm like, man, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't. That's not me. I just stay underground and do me. And they said it's a good show. And then I kind of looked at it. I was like, oh no. When I watched the other coaches, I was like, I'm not doing that. I said, I can't do that. I can't be the way they are. And I asked a few people. And you know what's interesting? The person that kind of convinced me was like my pastor. He was like, no, you should do it. I thought he was going to be like, no, just stay in the church and be. But he said, no, you should do it and live out your life on the camera. And I said, man, I'm going to get fired. And he said, no, you'll be fine. And you know, we were able to plant some seeds, and a lot of people were encouraged and was able to see some authenticity in it. So it worked out. And you know what? They did a good job of really telling the story and kind of some of the things that were important to me, being able to put that on camera. And so it worked out. I was actually surprised. I didn't. When you go through it, you're like, there's no way this is going to be entertaining.
It's
I look like,
highly entertaining.
yeah,
Okay.
I thought I'd come off like a jerk. I'm like, I don't know, man, how it's gonna work out. So
No, it's highly entertaining. So you don't have any control in the back end of it. They just film you and then you watch it with us pretty much as it comes out.
yeah, they control all the content, and as we're going through it, they kind of. But you know what? Like I think Greg Whiteley, who's the kind of creator of the show, he told me, he said it's just gonna be a mirror of you. And I'm thinking like, let me go look at myself and see what I look like. And I said, all right, if I'm passionately trying to help these kids, and I truly am, like in my heart, and it really was revealed during the show. Yes, I'm a little hard and I'm kind of grimy and I'm going off on them, but what's in my heart is really that they move on and they have success, and that's what's I guess that's what everybody saw.
No, that's definitely what comes across. And so this is season 2. So usually Last Chance U, they switch coach each year, switch schools and coaches each year, but they came back to you for 2 seasons. And like I said, my son and I, we're like watch it religiously every time it comes out. Now we saw Deion Sanders has a docuseries called Coach Prime on Amazon Prime. Would you ever be interested in having like Coach Mosley where it's your own basically and they continue to follow your team year to year?
It is all respect to Coach Sanders, to Prime. It is you have to be committed. It is a lot of energy. there are messages, there are, intentionally, I would leave, there was messages that I want to get out that all of us coaches need to know in my heart. I feel like, look, these kids need our help and we need to continue to inspire them. So that's something that I would like to continue to do, but it's another commitment. There's a commitment to be on display and to be able to share that. And it's a lot, to be able to have a commitment to say, my door is open. If I'm going to commit to this, my door is open so they can see where I drum all this energy up. It comes from home. It comes from family. It comes from having a foundation of integrity all the way around. And that's a commitment. And so that's part of the challenge. I don't know. I would have to sit back and pray and ask my wife, because if we going in, you got to go all in as we did this show. We went all in. And, we'd have the end of the day coaching my team. And I'm like, all right, I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. Here's the mic. Take all this stuff off. I want to go home. And they say, hey, coach, can we hop in your car and go with you and go home? And then I'm like, call my wife. I'm like, they come into the house. She's like, what? And so those are things that you got to be willing to commit to. And I just need a breather here, but possibly, because I think there's still some stuff, some stories that need to be told.
No, definitely. I mean, I had a documentary film last year on myself, and it was like a 9-month process. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And so how do you balance that, though, of like the home life? You have kids, you're a husband. Like, how do you balance all of that and still pour in so much to the kids? Because I think that's what comes across the most to us is like watching you, all the energy that you put into practice and everything. But then when you go home, you still have to have something left for your family.
Well, whatever I'm doing, there's a lot of people that know how to multitask, and I'm not great at multitasking. So wherever I'm at, that gets 100% of my time. And so if I'm a family, I'm 100%. I'm just as emotionally involved as I am with my team. I'm giving my family that emotional attention, whether it's that day we're joking and we're clowning, or that day I'm looking in their eyes and I'm asking them about their sports, or and then when it's my wife is looking at me, you just all with the kids, what about me? And then 100%, I got to give her that 100%. And I'm 100% whatever space I'm in. So I'm going home. I did have issues with bringing home my work. You lose a game, or winning a game is not tough. Losing games are hard, and you coming home, you're emotionally involved and all that. My wife used to be like, man, don't be coming home when you lose. And I don't even want you to come home. So I've learned how to leave that at the door and go 100%. I think our families understand it. I'll say this, for a lot of coaches, they ask me, man, how can you do that and do all the traveling and whatever you do, how can you do that? Well, here's what you can't have. And a lot of guys want to say, well, I need some me time. I need some guy time. I need to go spend time with my boys. Well, if I'm going to spend 100% of my time with these young men and pour into them, then my family gets 100% of the time. There's not much me time. And so the social life, I think that's where the family breaks down, is you spend all the time at work, and then you say, well, I still need my personal time. Let me go to the bar with my guys and my friends, and then let me come home. Like, no. Like, if you're going to pour into that, then you know what? Something has to be eliminated. So I'm not the guy that's going to go home and sit and watch NFL on Sunday and just sit back and, drink and sit. No, it's family, it's church, it's their time. I don't have personal time. Well, me and the guys are going to we going to the Lakers game or something like that. Or I'm going to do you like this. We go to the Sparks game. Like,
okay, thank you.
It's like, we not, I don't have time for that. My time is my career, my job, and then completely with family. And I think that's what happens with the breakdown. Everybody says, well, my job, it broke down my family. And like, no, my wife understands the commitment that I have. Yeah. She understands how much time it takes, the hours that it takes. But when that clock stops there, even if it's a 10-hour day or a 14-hour day, when that clock stops, she gets 100% of the time.
That's amazing.
And I think that's what's happening when they say, well, how does, it's a 14-hour day. Okay. Well, then she gets the 15, 16, 17, 18. She gets the rest of the hours. And the family gets the rest of the hours, even if it's that long. So I think that's when everybody asks me the question, I say that's that's what happens. They get the rest of the time. It's no, well, I need some me time. Like, no, that's it. My me time is with family, or my
Well,
me time is with the team.
yeah, that's interesting because there's this term that, in sports, I feel like I grew up in like, I guess they call it like old school sports. I had some pretty tough coaches. I feel like you're one of those coaches in the best way possible. So this term might sound foreign to you, but like self-care, mental health and stuff. Do you have anything that you do? I know you don't have your me time, but like what are you continually pulling from? Like where does all of that come from? Like do you have a moment where something that you do for your own mentals?
Well, my source is right here. My source is from God. I spend time. That's the time I spend outside of family and outside of. That's my first source, and that's where I draw my energy. And then the compassion that He had for me and changing my life and turning my life around. I see myself in all of those young men. I see myself when somebody's burdened, when my wife is sad because I'm not spending time with her. I know that feeling, so I make sure that I'm compassionate enough to say, I understand. Let me flip the switch and make sure I give her the time that she needs. When I look at those young men's eyes and I see their eyes, you know what? Let me flip the switch and because I see the eyes that they have and the way that they look, or when someone's down, I see the same thing. And Christ did it for me, so I kind of flip the switch and realize that I need to pay it forward and do that in return. So that's my source and that's my energy, and realizing and I get joy out of it. I get excited. I have enthusiasm because that's the strength and source. So it's really no personal gain. The gain is to make sure that we see them have success and to pour into them, and that the seeds are planted so that they can have life, so that life can come out of them. Life can come out of my family. That's my first responsibility. If my family's dying, then
Yeah.
what good is helping these young men get to college, or what good is doing anything outside of the. So if that tree is not watered first, and then the tree that's being planted with these young men and what we're doing here, if that's not watered, I can't do anything for it unless I get my source. And so my energy comes from the Lord.
That's beautiful. And like so I have a family that like I'm an HBCU baby as I call it. Both my parents met at an HBCU. They had us. My sister went to an HBCU, and I see that JUCOs have a lot of similarities to HBCU where there's plenty of talent, maybe not enough funding for the players. And I know you're East LA all the way, but you also seem like a mission driven coach. So would you ever consider coaching an HBCU down the line? I'm not saying like right now, but considering the messaging behind people saying they want to pour into HBCUs, would that be something you'd ever consider?
Oh, absolutely. I just want to be somewhere where I can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask me, why don't you go here and there? And I've had some opportunities to go some higher levels to, double or triple my money. But once you go into those spaces, you're in that world.
Yeah.
And then there's a different mission, regardless of what I'm trying to do. Is like, in order to keep your job, you better do X, Y, and Z. You got to win and forget all of that helping kids. And, now you can do it within that, but it's television contracts on the line, it's sponsorships. And if you ain't winning and getting that done, then you know what, it's time to go. So, but I see similarities in the HBCU, and we always had that. Especially us on the West Coast. A lot of us on the West Coast, we haven't had that experience. And I've had some friends that go out there and had great experiences, and it's been all love. And yes, they're for some reason, even with the exposure that we get, it seems to, we're still trying to gather this momentum at the HBCUs. Like,
Right.
when are we going to really just start rolling downhill fast? When are we going to start going? And what Coach Prime did, man, I dare anybody to question his move. I can see the feeling like it's exhausting to continue to pull and be the one pulling everybody up. It's so exhausting to be able to pull. And for him at his status to even be pulling, I can see it. It feels like myself at this junior college, and I'm continuing to pull, and you're like telling everybody, like, look at what we're doing. And it's like, and it's not about me. Like, yeah, I'll use my platform to get us recognition, but like, I'm trying to pull everybody up. Hello, don't you see it? Administrators, don't you see it? Let's go. I'm helping us with this momentum. Everybody jump in. Let's go. And it seems like everybody, in some cases, just sit back. And at some point, you got to say, you know what, we've kind of maximized what we could do here. And so I shame on anybody who questions Coach Dion. He could do the same thing, moving on where he's at. But yeah, I mean, it's anywhere where I can do what I'm doing right now, where I can speak into lives and I won't get in trouble for helping people. Winning is important. I'm at the HBCU, but ultimately I get to pour into lives and African American lives where they're like minded. They understand when I'm speaking, they understand and they can get it a little bit more. And I don't have to not speak my language for someone to get the message. They get the message when I speak. So.
No, I love that. And so, first of all, you said you could have had offers 2-3 times your salary. Are you turning that down, Coach?
Well, look, here's the thing though, if you go into that space, then let's just say I'm in the Pac-12, the SEC or whatever. If you're in that space, and I've spoken to schools in the Big 10, Big 12, and that, once you go there, it's not even about I'm not doing what I'm doing now, And part of it is I got a young family. All of my kids are in high school right now, and like if I move now, everything's off balance. Now I'm trying to get them to college and the opportunity to really be in their lives. Like I get to go home every night. I get to watch their games and all that. I'm not traveling around the world like I was doing when I was coaching at the Division I. You miss out on being able to be there. And I have to be hands-on with them right now. And then once you're in that space, like I have to go get players, what it takes to get players at the level. Like I'm no longer pouring into lives. I'm no longer really sitting in the living rooms and really talking to the parents and saying, look, I'm going to get your son, I'm going to get your daughter back on track. I'm not doing that anymore. It's like, okay, I'm going to get you the biggest name, image, and likeness deal. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not, and then I got to figure that out. And then that's what I'm doing. They're not coming to the university because they believe in what I believe in. They're coming to the university because they got the biggest NIL deal. They're coming to the university because they feel that's what's best going to get them to the NBA, and that's nothing wrong with that. But then I just feel kind of cheap, and I'm not ready for that. Maybe when the kids are gone and I feel like they're on and they're going and the wife is like, you know what, let's go get that bread. Then I might do that,
Well, you brought up something, the name, image, and likeness space, and we pretty much seen it transform college sports. Like when I was playing, that would have been a dream, at UConn. That would have been really nice. But we've seen the name, image, and likeness, for better or for worse, change how things are going. The transfer portal, I always like to say, it's full at this point. There's no more space. What do you see in the future if things continue along this line? Like, what are your thoughts on name, image, and likeness in college?
Yeah, I think the intentions were great, and I don't mind the student athlete getting paid, but there's some disparities right now. It's just there's some fairness that's going on, and I think if they can get a handle on that, I think it'll be fine. From a coaching perspective, I think it will be tough if you get someone walk through the door. I mean, I've spoken with some players that are different places. Coach, man, they getting paid $300,000 and, I'm only getting this. And so that's the conversation now in the locker room. It's not, he's getting more shots than me anymore. The conversation is he's getting paid more than me, or the coach likes him more. The coach is trying to feature him more. That used to be the problem. The problem is, well, he got a better deal than me. And I'm like, are we still coaching basketball? And I lost my voice. I'm losing my voice. You talked about my voice being gone.
You never have a voice, Coach.
I know. Because I can throw myself into basketball. Man, do you think I could throw myself into basketball if he's like, man, you better quit talking to me, man. I'm out of here, man. Let me go collect my check, man.
Yes.
And not that, of course, at different levels, there's different styles of coaching that you have to have. But I would think it'd be hard and how to manage that. And I have some relationships with people that had a good handle on culture, their team culture. They had a good handle. And they said, man, I'm losing the handle. And we talk about empowering student athletes. Yeah, but there's a point where there's got to be a balance where, you know what, there still needs to be some structure and discipline that they have to learn before they move on. And so there's just a balance. And it's been some cases where coaches had way too much power and they were really, suppressing a lot of our student athletes and not allowing them to express themselves. But now they get a chance to express themselves, and there needs to be a balance. But it's kind of going over the top right now, and so we just kind of got to fix the balance. And I think that's something that the NCAA has to get a hold on. They got to get a hold on.
Yeah, well, and also congrats on your Croc deal. I think I saw you post that recently. I think that do you think that Netflix has something to do with that, or is it just like you're a great coach, and I played 11 years in the WNBA, played overseas, and how I watch you coach is how I would prefer to be coached. I like Coach Auriemma. If anybody knows anything about Coach Auriemma, he's the same type of, he's going to be unapologetically him. So I'm curious, Isaiah Thomas did a piece on NBA TV that said now there's a pay to play mentality that is maybe not so much internationally, which is why you see in the NBA now a lot of the top players are international players. Giannis Antetokounmpo won 2 years MVP. Then the Joker won 2 years after him. Luka Doncic is one of the front runners. You start to see that the international game is jumping in leaps and bounds. And Isaiah Thomas attributed it to starting AAU and moving up. We almost have a pay to play style. And so do you see that happening more so where it's like paid trainers, paid everything to where it's a certain a step thing you have to do to get to the top?
Yeah, I mean, we look at, I think from an international standpoint, just the development earlier. I think, we played earlier, but there's now international, they're starting to develop earlier. And we would just play. And then once we got to high school, the end of high school and college, we started development. We were a little more advanced, and we were advanced because we were playing, we were repping the sport a little bit more. But now with the development starting earlier, as they have those international teams at an early age, they're playing pro earlier. We see that they were starting to move a little bit faster. And it's like, hey, before they pass us up, we better start our developmental leagues and pay to play. And, you got the G League, and you got the G League Ignite with my guys over there with Pooh Jeter and Jason Hart. You got that team where they're starting to take, those kids, those high school kids, and say, hey, we might as well start that pro development a little bit earlier. And I think that would work to our benefit instead of guys moving so fast with just AAU and kind of in a sense where we're a little undeveloped because we're trying to play so much. Let's have a developmental phase, and let's say, okay, let's try to stop trying to rush and just play and build a platform. Let's really start our platforms in development and developmental, and let's make that our gauge, and not just the AAU gauge where they go out and play on the shoe circuit as much. Let's start truly a developmental, and let's let that be somewhere where the kids can get paid at, and not just do the club circuit where the kids see the benefits.
No, definitely. And speaking on the pay to play and all of those, you're a girl dad. And so I think you can understand how it's I'm curious what your thoughts are on why the WNBA and other women's sports only get that 5% of the media coverage. Like coming from, you have friends and different things. Like, I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on why women's sports have such a gap when it comes to coverage? And I'm not even talking about pay. I'm just talking about like the media coverage and the following and the sponsorships. What from your perspective, what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's something in the past that I think us as just in this generation is still trying to accept. We're moving past the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, and it's still like, there's the core, believe, of our media still hasn't accepted that, hey, we need a different marketing strategy. We need to up our marketing strategy to market across all of the boards, the women's sports. And I think just our marketing strategy, we still haven't done a good job of saying, let's be real strategic and making sure we find this marketing strategy so that we get more viewers and we get more sponsors and and we get more coverage. And I think just the core of our media is still a little bit behind in that. You know, our CEOs and those that are in the core of our media is still a little bit behind in terms of let's find this marketing strategy to move forward. And I think that's the biggest thing, because there's a following, and just as much as there is men's sports, but we haven't gathered that following and put them in front of our women's sports and say, okay, we don't. The men have a following and the women have a following. Let's figure out how to strategically market that women following, and we don't have to grab the men followers and say, hey, watch, or let's transition to women's sports. But let's find who are those who are following our women and who support our women, and let's gather that group, and now let's market to that group and push women sports that way. We're trying to stay traditional with our marketing and with our media packages, and we need to move forward, and let's find a strategy, and let's find that group, and let's move forward with that.
Love it. Love it. Last thing, real quick. Predictions. So I'm covering the men's Final Four in Houston with CBS. So I'm just at this point, and I know it's far away, but if you had to pick who you got as the men's NCAA champion, if you had to pick at this moment.
You know what, man? I love grimy coaches. I love grimy coaches, man. I love what Kelvin Sampson is doing, man. He's grimy. And then, you know what? I got to stick with the West Coast. I like even though they're a little bit behind right now, I like what UCLA is doing. I just love grimy coaches right now. But I like Kelvin Sampson, man. I've always loved him. I've been in contact with him. He's recruited some of our guys. I like what he's doing. You know, from the glimpses of what I have seen, that's kind of what I've liked. Because again, like I tell you, I'm all 100%.
You don't have time to even.
I don't have time. I'm 100%. Like, I'm on the phone with my guys this morning trying to get classes and all that. But what I have seen, you know, and I see Kelvin, they doing a good job, and so I'm a roll with him that he get his first championship.
Okay, and then on the women's side, I know you said you don't catch up much, but do you have any predictions on the women's side for the NCAA champion?
Well, like you said, I'm a Geno fan. I know they a little bit behind right now. I like that. You know, I like homegrown, staying at home. So I like the fact that she committed to USC, and I know they're a little bit behind right now. But I'm gonna just roll with. I still like Geno. I haven't watched as much, but I like what Geno is doing, and I like you know, what Purdue is doing. So I'm gonna just stay with those right there.
All right, Coach. Listen, I appreciate you. I can't tell you how much. I know you're coaching your team, but what you were doing at Last Chance U, you're coaching my son right now too, and everybody else that watches it. So I appreciate what you do for the game, because it truly comes out. And thank you for joining me on here.
Well, shout out to you, and it's a privilege to be on with you and what you're doing too. Some of the amazing things, man. You keep doing you. You go.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Coach.